Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of Better Humans at Work. I couldn't be more thrilled to be joined by Rafael Williams. He has his law degree. He is a jack of all trades, but always sits at the table of DEI. Rafael, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you for having me, Dr. V. I appreciate it. I know we connected a while ago, and we were so thrilled to come in contact the way we did. So I'm so happy to be here with you and your audience.
We're thrilled to have you. So, can you share a little bit with our audience, who mostly HR and DEI people? How did you end up in the DEI space, especially with a law background?
Yeah. So DEI, I always tell people that it's a sad, sad story. It started back in the day from my first job outside of collegiate, where I was just living my best life or trying to. And one of my coworkers kind of outed me in a very weird, strange way. Um, and I just kind of wondered, like, are there other people that have this level of intersectionality, being black and gay, feel trouble in the workspace being them authentic selves? And so, like, how do I navigate that? And so I just like really big rabbit hole trying to navigate what does that really look like? Were there avenues in the organization so I could have a level of sense of belonging? And there wasn't. And so that just like catapulted my trajectory of DE and I, where it seated in my first role. And then I went to Indeed, where it was seated there, where I started a lot of employee resource groups and then moved up the ladder to where I am now. Um, and then in all of that, I had this like long lingering question of like, why are companies so afraid of actually moving the needle in diversity? Why are they so legally risk it first? And like, I was never okay with like the hypothetical or the uh, HR business partner responses to that. And so I was like, I'm going to get a law degree and figure out for myself. And so that's why I spent the arm and a leg getting my law degree, but I have it and I love it. And so it allows me to look at the efforts through a different lens than I did before and able to push back on the business in a different way.
So, what were some of those aha moments you had in law school coming in with such a strong DEI lens to that work?
Yeah, that people forget that DEI is not just about race and gender. It's about harassment. It's about favoritism. It's about uh, what people wear to work, and how does that look, and what are the precedents around that. And so I think the aha moment was, oh, it's not just this. It's this, and this, and this. And it helped me look at diversity from a different lens of like, um, how we have to create a sense of belonging for everyone. Um, and the aha moment, I think for me, was so many people are still like miseducated on what that looks like in the workplace.
Yeah.
Even when people are in law school, like a lot of people went to get their JD so they can practice. A lot of people didn't get their MJD where they didn't want to practice like me. And so, like, now there's lawyers out here in the world that don't understand or conceptualize why it's important. And so now they're going to be out here doing employment law without having that level of like understanding. Might be a little difficult.
Excuse me, I sneezed there. But something you said about, it's so much more than just gender and ethnicity. Those are important
Mhm.
areas and important areas to start, right? You got to
They
start
are.
somewhere, but it's so much more than that. And I wanted to call out the bald elephant in the room, but this is my first public appearance in my full baldy state. I lost my hair last year, and dealing with how to navigate hair loss in the workplace, especially as a woman, where it's not nearly as normalized as bald heads are for men. When do I wear wigs? When do I not? Are hair wraps appropriate? So whenever
Mhm.
I woke up this morning, I'm like, I'm talking to Rafael about unapologetic DEI today. I'm going to be unapologetically, authentically myself. And I
Mhm.
feel like companies that have DEI best practices in place accommodate what you want to look like in the workplace, so people don't have to stress out about whether they're going to wear their wig today, or they want to wear their
Mhm.
favorite sweater today, which you're rocking right now over there.
Yeah. This is what about like iconic sweaters. I don't wear it enough. But yeah, I think that is the root cause of it. And now seeing where it's headed, um, it's just a whole nother spiral. And I'm like, I'm not concerned for me anymore because my issue is like I'm old, and I'm already reaching that precipice of like I'm going to be out of the workforce at some point in a few years. What about the people that are coming behind me, and how are we building and forging this way for them? Um, is what's my biggest concern.
So let's dig into that a little more. What could organizations be doing? What could people leaders, HR leaders, DEI leaders be doing for these next generations coming into the workforce?
Yeah. I think being honest about why we're seeing this level of backlash on DEI, I think number one, having that level of self awareness. And my hypothesis is diversity, equity, and inclusion has always been, it's what, been around 20 years, a big hot topic, a big emerging topic for those years were rooted in like George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, creating some level of equity for individuals that identify as Black. But not just that, but at this point in the precipice, like someone had died, a lot of Black employees, a lot of Black individuals in the workplace were amplifying their level of like injustice in the workplace. And so that plus George Floyd got tied to DE&I. And so that allowed a lot of individuals like some person that owns a company that starts with T and owns a company that used to start with Bird, to demonize these efforts because they start to see these efforts as just Black. And the issue is like D&I isn't just a Black issue. D&I isn't just a Black woman issue. D&I is actually an issue for everyone. And we saw it as they attacked affirmative action. And that I had to read that a court opinion and saw that like no other race was overly amplified as Black individuals were um in the data and why they wanted to reverse affirmative action. And so that kind of sucked. So I think that's number one. Number two, really figuring out how you can lean into the data as a DEI practitioner. I know we say that all data is important, but really slapping the data in front of your leader's face to understand we are underrepresented in this way. We need our products and our services need to amplify and reflect the populations. And I know we've said that before, and we put it in our white papers and we put it on our LinkedIn posts. But I think right now it is more important because at the end of the day, the younger generations are going to be looking at this stuff. We're going to be making sure that the companies that they work for are ethical, have some level of CSG, so corporate social responsibility, and are building policies that are not just affecting their employees, but affecting their employees' families and giving them the principles that they need to be able to move forward. I think that's how DEI practitioners and HRBPs or even business leaders can really think about this concept holistically. It's like being self-aware and looking at the data, and being unapologetic about pushing back on your leaders to have them understand why this is important, is my thought on on it all.
I love it. I love it. So
Mm-hmm.
let's really dig into this unapologetic DEI, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what does it mean to be unapologetic with this work?
My mentor would say that I am a Black Panther for DEI walking in any room, and I would disagree with her. No, I wouldn't. I think that being unapologetic DEI is means that how to I always try to I had to explain it in a really cool way, and this is the easiest way to do it. So I do CrossFit, hence why my back is got awful. And my trainer mentioned to me, he was like, Raphael, how can you always advocate for so many different issues and so many things in the world? Aren't you tired? Aren't you exhausted? And I reminded him at that moment, I said, I have been Black and gay for God knows how many years. And if I hang up that card and don't fight for other people along the way, how can I expect people to advocate and be an ally and fight for me if I am not unapologetic for their issues? And so I'm okay with being tired. I'm okay with having a voice. I'm okay with being shut out of rooms because I want to make sure that equity is at the forefront of everything. Um, I know that white males feel like we are demonizing them in society, but I think we're not demonizing them in society. I think we're trying to bring them along to really understand like we need to bake a new pie and we need to stop eating out of the old one and bake a new pie with new ingredients from everyone so we can move forward, and create a world and create a society and create policies for that everyone can thrive in. And I don't think people really understand that. And so I just think unapologetic DEI means not giving a fuck about doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Doing, not caring about, not so you said not giving an F about doing the right thing, but do you mean like what's the right thing in that example?
Yeah, it's the advocacy for others. It's the equity, enrichment for
Mm.
all. It is the because I think, in my opinion, I think allyship, and I think we talked about this when we first met. I think allyship is a cop out. I think allyship allows you to go into Nordstrom's and pick off the sales rack on the first floor. But being an advocate means that you are willing to take all your bank and your buck to go to the top floor. Oh, did it freeze? Oh, to go to the top floor to spend your hard-earned cash on the most expensive thing, knowing that in the day, like, you just risk probably like what maybe your next meal. I don't know. It's a hypothetical, but like you're risking it all for someone else. At the end of the day, I think advocacy is now more important than anything, and so I think uh, that's it.
So I am personally trying to bring back the word ally because
Okay.
it got dragged through the mud, and I think, and I'm pretty sure what you were talking about was performative allyship. So
Yes.
I'm an ally, but you don't actually
Uh
like
huh.
go in and do the work, or go for the product that's going to have the biggest impact, in your example.
Hmm.
And I believe allies are advocates, true allies, active allies, right?
Hmm.
And they use their power, their status, their privilege to help and support others. And they do it in conjunction, like they do it in partnership with those that they're willing to serve. I think that's another way
Hmm.
allies really got it wrong, thinking like, oh, I'm going to call myself an ally and do this thing, and you're not even doing a thing that's helpful, and you shouldn't be calling yourself an ally in the first place, because I believe
Hmm.
you should only use that word when they're referring to someone who has been an ally to them. So
Hmm.
stay tuned, June-ish 2025. There's a book coming out. I'll send you a copy, Rafael.
Please do. I can't wait. I can't wait to read it. But to your point, into your definition, I don't think that's an ally anymore. I think that's an advocate. I think
Advocate.
that's that individual that is willing to risk it all, to be at the forefront. And we've seen advocates so many times throughout history, that they risk it all to make sure that others have equitable experiences in society. And so I think that's what we need to get back to. So to your definition, whether it's performative ally, whether it is strength ally, just do the right thing and advocate for individuals that don't have the same level of privilege as you.
Let's go back to what you were talking about earlier about, straight white men and how they feel like they're not in this work. Because I
Mhm.
couldn't agree more. They're necessary. It's why I feel like allyship is so critical, and kind of this next phase of DEI that we're going to be seeing is
Mhm.
more allyship. But what strategies or arguments have you used to help white straight men understand that they do belong in these
Yeah.
efforts?
Um, I think it is a coaching effort. I think to bring them along, you have to listen to them to really understand why they feel like these efforts are against them.
Mhm.
Um, for a prime example, I have an old manager. He was phenomenal. He was great, but he never understood why these efforts were important when he was my manager. Like, I was over DEI, I was doing talent attraction efforts, and they were very, I was very unapologetic about making sure that our talent pools were diverse and equitable, and they had really great experiences. But he never could understand why until he had that proximity to. Um, being a part of the diverse community, because he had a child at this point that was
Mm.
decided to be LGBTQIA and like decided to be something different than the status quo. He didn't understand. He was like, oh, now it clicks. Now I understand why this is happening. And so I think number one, the first thing is to listen to them, to understand where they're coming from and not demonizing them on their views, and continue to chip away at their views, but do it in a strategic way of having them like strategically think about like, okay, cool. Like, you say that diversity, equity, inclusion is merit based. So you're telling me that me going to law school, me working for all these Ivy League companies, that I don't have enough merit to be able to get a new job at a Facebook or a Apple or a Tesla, because it's not merit based.
Hmm.
Why is that? Like, please have me
Mhm.
a further understanding on that. Like, I have the tenure, I have the background, I have the knowledge, skills, and abilities, but then seeing who actually gets the role, your logic isn't matching up to your overall like merit base. And so like having them understand that, and to do that, you have to listen to them and chip away at it. Is I think that's the number one strategy. Coaching them through it is the number one strategy. Because
Yeah.
as we've learned, like having them understand, like, hey, like if you're hurting me, if you're like not advocating for me, that means you're not advocating for potentially your white wife or your white daughter or your gay daughter. And it's like, I don't think that works anymore. We found that out with the election. Like that approach did not work because people still voted against their own interests for something else. And so like I just think that that approach doesn't work. But listening to them and having them change their way of thought over time is the easiest way. Because
It's
yeah.
it's a long game. It's a relationship. It's building that relationship.
Mhm.
And that's why I talk about allyship in terms of these ally partnerships between an ally and a partner. That's how we can
Mhm.
make sure not only the allies doing it right because the partner is telling them what to do, but that also the allies able to have that mindset shift because of those conversations with the partner, right? It's the
Mhm.
coachability on both sides. It's so critical.
Mhm.
So you mentioned the election, so we got to bring it up,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
We're a few weeks out, and things not even we're about a week out from when things shifted. So
Mhm.
how does one be unapologetically DEI in the current climate, the current state of affairs, whatever legally things are getting stripped
Yeah.
away?
But they're legally not in a very unique way because Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is still in place. The U.S. Code 1981 is still in place. All the things are still in place, and I think the only way that he can get rid of it is like defunding it. So we know that EEOC is about to be defunded at some point. He's about to start stripping away those funds. The Attorney General is now starting to demonize people who have been victims of toxic workplaces based upon their genders, race, sexual orientation, abilities, etc. And so I just think that like what DEI practitioners can do is ground themselves in the law and figure out what is actually still compliant, what is truth, what is fact, and what is lie. Because all this stuff that we're seeing now is kind of like fantasy and glitter, and it's allowing big corporations like a Target or a uh, whomever has withdrew their DEI efforts in the past weeks or so, allowing them to give them the option to pull out of DEI because let's be honest, they weren't probably truly invested in DEI. This
Yeah.
gave them a scapegoat to really withdraw from that because the organizations that we see are doubling down on it understand the core values of why DEI is important, and not just from a oh we need to have a diverse workforce, but it's all we need to have the equity and the inclusion, because that's important when we have customers coming in the door. When we have to have innovative products, we see that at Apple, we see that at Costco, we see that at Chase. So like, I just think that like the ones that truly want to do it and want to stand up against the noise are the companies that we should be investing in. And DEI practitioners also can advocate for our dollars need to go towards organizations that have that mindset, that thought. So if you're
Mm.
advocating or giving a gift card to your ERGs, be mindful of where you spend your dollars because they go a long way.
We are wrapping up on time, which is wild because I could just talk all day about this with you, Rafael. Any closing thoughts on, what even just not even a DEI practitioner or HR leader, just like the average person out there who just cares about this work and is seeing it getting stripped away in so many places. What would you recommend for them who want to be more unapologetic with their approach to DEI?
Yeah. I say number one, take care of yourself first. I know that sounds very selfish, but I was depressed. I was depressed for like a month after the results, and so
Aw.
it just took me a moment to bounce back. So take care of yourself first, so you can have that solid foundation. Because at the end of the day, this work is tough.
Yeah.
This work is hard. It chips away at you over and over again. So number one, self care. Number two, ground yourself in the knowledge, skills, and abilities that go into this work. So when someone
Mhm.
is pushing back on you, someone has a counting opinion, a counting view, that you're able to fight them with the facts and not the fiction.
Yes.
Because right now we have to really stand on the facts. We have to stand on the opinions. We have to stand on all the knowledge, because they're going to try to chip us away with, oh, well, you need to have data. Well, data can't be a real thing, because if you were to have data, all these court opinions wouldn't have happened the way they happened. All like, you know what I mean? And so, and I
Yep.
think number three is find organizations that are willing to invest in this work and go there. Stop trying to go in organizations that are going to beat you down, give you a team of one for DEI, and you think you can make a way. The only thing that you're making is yourself giving yourself a heartache. So go where the work is important.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom with our audience. I really appreciate you. I know if I lived out in Seattle, because you're in Seattle, right?
I am, and it's sunny now, so you should definitely pull up.
I know. If I was out in Seattle, I know you and I'd be getting drinks. I know that
Hmm.
would be a thing.
For sure. Well, you keep doing pop ups about D&I, so just swing on by Seattle at some point.
Do Seattle DEI. Well, I'm actually considering reaching out to Pal's bookstore in Oregon,
Oh my
to,
God.
in
Hmm.
Portland for my next book launch, and seeing if they'll
Hmm.
have me be a do like a reading, and then you could come on down to Portland. We could party there.
Listen, I never drive my car as it is now. I will definitely punch it to see you, and please let me know when your book is live. I would love to evangelize it, to share out your amazing knowledge, because you've done some phenomenal work in the space, and so it needs to be shared.
Thank you, Raphael. You're
You're welcome,
wonderful.
honey.
Well, thank you so much for all you do.